In this video, I'm going to be looking at Pydantic AI and how you can build AI agents for production-ready applications with Pydantic AI. Now, since I am an application security researcher and as someone who works in the security space, I'm building something that I'll use for myself. So I'm basically building a security research assistant that can help me write weekly security articles with Pydantic AI. Now, this video is going to be me explaining and walking through Pydantic AI for this particular use case. And remember, I have not worked with Pydantic AI before, so it's going to be me actually stumbling through some of these solutions, stumbling through some of the problems that I face while working on it. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like this sort of content, please consider liking this video and subscribing to this particular channel. All right, let's start building out our Pydantic AI agent. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use the agency framework of Pydantic AI to build out a new security research agent. So that's what I'm going to do. The reason is I'm building something like this for myself. I want to be able to collect all the application security news for the previous week and render it and actually have some kind of a way where I can create a blog or some kind of a voice note or some kind of a podcast, if you will, to be able to figure out the application security news that happened last week, something like last week tonight for application security, right? So that's what I'm going to do. So with that in mind, let me just get started here. And I'm going to actually do this. And I'm going to use UV for all of this. Research agent. So I'm going to do set research agent. And I will open up cursor. And once I open up cursor, I should be in a position to start building out this particular project. So let's actually put in what we need for this project. So this is what we're going to do in terms of what we need for this particular project. So the technology that we're going to use. Right, first thing we're going to use is Pydantic AI. This is obviously going to be the most important thing that we're going to use. The other thing that we're going to use, we're not going to use Fast API as cursor is suggesting. We're also going to be using Dependency to do searches for us. So this is for the search engine. So instead of using DuckDuckGo or some other type of search engine, we're going to be using Dependency for this. Finally, we're going to write things to Markdown. We're going to write the actual final file into Markdown. So that's what we're going to be doing. So the way this is going to work is going to be something like this. So we're going to have an agent. It's going to do a search for the AppSec news from the last week based on today's date, right? So today I'm filming this on a Sunday. So this will search for AppSec news for the last week based on today's date. Now it doesn't always have to be a Sunday. Even if you choose another date, you might just use it based on today's date. So this is going to be one of the variables that we're going to use. It's going to write it in a particular format. Right, so this is going to be in Markdown, and each story is going to have a header and a brief explanation. Finally, it's going to save it in a file. That's what this is going to do. It's a single agent. It's doing these three tasks. So it's going to search, it's going to format it, it's going to write it into a file. That's basically what this is going to do. Okay, so there's nothing more to this than that. We're just going to use a single agent. We're not using a multi-agent workflow or anything like that. We're also going to be using OpenAI GPT-4o. We can use Mini for this. I don't think we need to use anything more than Mini. Mini is going to be cheap and implementing it as well, so I'll just use Mini. But if you want something more complicated, you can use 4o or even o1. I'm going to rename this to Research Agent. So now we have our thing that we want to do. We have our tasks very clearly set out. Let's go ahead and start adding libraries that we need. So we need Pydantic AI. We're going to figure out how to install this in the first place. It's pretty simple. I'm just going to move this to the next screen. So we're going to install Pydantic AI. It's going to add that as the virtual environment. It's going to create that virtual environment. I'm not going to do anything else with this. It's just going to create Pydantic AI. I'm also going to install UV add. I'm also going to install python.env. It needs to read env files because our credentials, our API tokens are going to be in an env file. So it's going to be an OpenAI API key. It's going to be number one. And then we're also going to have a Dependency key. So we're going to have two sets of keys that we're going to be using in this. So we need both these things to work as part of the thing here. Once we have this, we're going to start building out our agent. In addition to .env, we also need to add Tavily. So we're going to add Tavily-Python. It's not just Tavily, it's Tavily-Python. So we need all three things. I'm also going to source my Tavily and I'm going to load that into the env file. Let's do that. I'm going to do that offline just to make sure that I'm not exposing the key. I'm also going to load my OpenAI API key. I'm not going to expose it online. So I've loaded my OpenAI API key and the Tavily key into the env. I'm not going to bother about it from now on. From this point on, it's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to just initialize a few imports. I'm just going to start with Pydantic and I'm just going to start building out the actual agent itself. I'm not going to waste too much time in precursor stuff. So we're going to start importing a few libraries. So Pydantic AI import agent. This is going to be an agent. On context, this is for the run of that particular agent, you'll need a certain response. I mean, you'll need to have context variables or context objects exposed. That's something we have. We also need to create base models and things like that because we need to base model. I don't think we need field from typing port list optional. Both these things are important because we want to have optional attributes and list attributes in our classes. So that's what we need to do. And we also need from Tavily port, Tavily client. You also have an async Tavily client, but I'm not doing async with this. I'm just going to stick to the synchronous version of Tavily. I'm also not going to create an asynchronous agent. I'm just going to create a very simple synchronous agent. So it's the reason is I don't want to sit and have to manage the async stuff with Pydantic as well. So that's what I have. On top of all this, I also need to import data classes from data class import data class and from .env import .env. This will help me load my env file as a set of environment variables for this code. Right? So that's basically what I need. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my research agent responses and I'm going to create the agent itself and then I'm going to create the response type and so on and so forth. So that's basically what I'm going to do first. That's going to be the first focus of what I'm going to do. So I'm going to declare a data class and I'm going to call this class search data class. So this is going to be me searching through it. Now what I'm going to look for is I'm going to say max results is equal to int. So I just want to make sure that I don't query too much. I just want to query some number of results. And I'm also going to look at today's date as one of the parameters for the search, right? So remember, this is going to be a search based on today's date. So one of the dependencies for this agent is to find out what is today's date. So that's there. And I'm also going to add a max results, but I don't want it to query massive number of user data sets. It's not necessary. So this is the search parameter that I'm actually going to provide. I'm also going to declare another data class called search dependencies. Search dependencies. And that is going to just have one parameter, which is today's date. Okay. So this is just going to have today's date. And that's basically what we want. Now we want to declare the outputs. So this is going to be research output. This is going to be a base model. The reason I'm doing this is I want an output in a very specific way. All right. So I'm going to say title. This is actually pretty okay. This is going to be a description of the title. And this is also going to be links. This is going to be a list of strings. So basically to say that for each research item, I want to have a title, I want to have an explanation or a description, and I want to have the citations in terms of the links which it's used to get those research items. So I'm also going to create another research. I'm going to say all research outputs. So I want a list of this research, right? So that is going to be research output is going to be a list of this research output. So that's basically what I'm trying to do here. So here I'm going to declare this. I'm going to say this title of research article. This will be marked down heading to this. I'm also going to add this markdown paragraph. This will be links to the research article, links that are sources for the research article, not links to the research article. This will be marked up bullet points. So we actually have all three things. I think we're good here. We don't need to worry about anything else. This is pretty straightforward. We just need to write it like this. So we need to get it into this particular format and then take it from here and do something with it. This is what I think we need to do. So let's see whether this will work out or not. So now we are also going to write our research agent. Research agent is the agent. And this is going to be OpenAI GPT-4o mini. And we're going to keep it 4o mini. So just to make sure that, so you can declare, so PydanticAI allows you to declare different types of models, supports different types of LLM models and LLM model frameworks like Gemini or DeepSeek or whatever it is, or Olama or something like that, and you can use that. But I'm just going to use OpenAI and I'm going to use 4o mini in this particular case. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say depths type. We need dependencies. So we have search dependencies. The dependency is today's date. The result type is going to be our all research outputs. So this is going to be a list of our research outputs. And that's why we have all results outputs. Then we are also going to declare a system prompt. Now a system prompt is essentially going to be like this. You are an expert security research assistant. I'm just going to write it like this. You are tasked with identifying all the major application security news for the previous week. You need to collate that news and come up with a research report with multiple articles. Each article should be relevant to application security only. Information related to vulnerabilities, exploits, or other useful application security news. You have access to the internet and you can use search engine. I don't think we need all that stuff. We have a system prompt. You need to write a maximum of 5 articles. So we have basically come up with we have written out an agent now. So our agent is our research agent. We're just going to use a single agent in this particular case. The agent has some dependencies. It's using the 4o model, 4o mini model. It's also going to produce it as an output of this. So it's basically a composite model that has multiple of these. So potentially 5 of these. And then it has a system prompt which has what it is, basically providing the identity of this particular research agent. Okay. So this is what we have. Now we are going to set up the tools. We need this to actually do something, right? So let's actually go ahead and create our Tavily search tool. So I'm going to say research agent dot tool. So this is going to be def search in Tavily. Just going to call this function search in Tavily. I'm going to say search data is equal to run context of this search data class. So you remember we created the search data class to say that, okay, these are the things that we need to search for this. We're going to put this as one of the arguments for the function. We're going to provide a search query, which is going to be a string, and we're going to give it a query number or a max query number. That is going to be int. Now this is going to fetch a dictionary, which is going to be, I'm going to say that this is going to be a dictionary, which is going to be a string, and anything on the other side. So this is something I have to declare. I have not declared this in typing. Optional. So any object. It can be any object. This. Now let's actually go ahead and look for it. So first of all, let's declare our Tavily client. So it's going to be search client is equal to Tavily client. Yeah, Tavily API key is what we have. So Tavily API key, we have the search client. Now let's actually look for our response. So let's look at the query. The query is also going to be pushed out. And once we run it, we can push in the query. We don't need to worry about that. So let's actually go ahead and look for the search. So max results is equal to search data dot depths dot max results. This is basically what we want. We want the max results that we want to search for. And then finally, we do the results. We do the search, which is search underscore client dot get search context. And we do the query equal to query, max results, then we return this. All right, so we have this particular thing. We have written it into this. We have search results that we have. So we can actually set up all this when we are running the agent. So let's actually get that done. So this, we have a tool. We need to create another tool. One more thing that I should also consider doing is essentially having a doc stream. This tool searches for the latest application security news using the Tavily API. I prefer doing this. I don't think it's necessary, but I prefer doing this simply because doing this gives me the ability to actually, first of all, understand myself later on that, oh, this is what it's doing. And the second thing is, I think a lot of these agent frameworks allow you to fine tune based off of this. So I think that's why it's good to do this. This needs to be provided with a query and a max results parameter. So that's the reason why we have these two parameters. So we have this two. Now the next one is we need another tool. Research agent tool def write to MD5. So this is again going to be research write, research output, research title, etc., etc. This, I think, is already done this pretty well. So this is great. So let's actually leave this be. Yeah, this is good. So this is going to actually do the writing to the file, right? So that's what it's going to do. Cursor can handle that for me. I don't need to worry about that at all. Now we need to set up a few more things. We need to set up the dependencies, and then we can see whether this will actually work as intended. So if name is equal to name. Okay, now let's actually set up the dependencies. So current date is equal to, we need to import a few more libraries for this. Let's actually go ahead and do that. From date time, what date time? So current date is equal to date time, not now, like this. Yeah, I just need this and we just need YYDTM. That's good enough, more than enough. So that's, we have this in string format. This is what we're going to pass into this. So we're going to also set up the dependencies. The search depths is equal to search dependencies, which is search data class, not the search dependency, search data class. This is what we need. This is going to be max results 5, date, current date. That's fine. That's what we need. And then we're going to pass this as dependencies into our run. So I'm going to do our result is equal to research agent dot run. Let's first write it. Get me the latest application security news from all over the world. So let's call that as our prompt or our query. Then we are going to put in our depths. Depths is equal to search depths. So we're going to push this in. And then finally, we are going to print result.data. Now, if all this works correctly as we intended, it should also first do the searches, then it should be able to do run the tool for searching in Tavily. Of course, that's going to be the first thing it does, and then it's going to write it into this particular format. So I think that's what is going to happen. I think I might have made a small mistake here, which is writing it into the format, writing it into a markdown file. I'm not 100% sure whether this will do it that way. Let's see whether this actually happens. I think this is wrong. I'm having a very strong feeling that this is wrong. So maybe that's the issue. Let's actually see whether that is the case or not. We'll be able to tell soon enough. So let's do uv run research agent.py, and when we run this, it says, did you mean model retry? Model result. Only that. It's fine. Anyway, unused one. Results type. So there's something wrong with the results type. Result schema. Maybe that's what it is. Depths type. Result type, not results type. Let's change that. Yeah, seems to be fine. No, this didn't run at all. For some reason, it did not just run. So I just need to figure out why this did not run, because very clearly mentioned here as to what the problem is. I'm not sure why it did not run at all. Let's see. Running the coroutine. Oh, okay. I think I got it. Dot run C. We're running a synchronous one. So remember, that's not going to work. unless you provide certain parameters. So this needs to be done as sync, otherwise by default it's going to run in asynchronous mode. Since we are not running an asynchronous agent, that's the reason we are not seeing this did work. And let's actually see whether it does. If it's all gone well, it should write the file, do this. It seems to have kind of done a reasonably good job. Run result, model request, system prompt part, okay. Model request, okay. Application security vulnerabilities, okay. Seems to have provided some. Adobe released a security bulletin. So it seems to have done it, but it has not written it to a file. So I think this is working. The results, the search part of it is working, but as I thought, this is probably not working. That's probably because it was expecting an input of all this, which is research output. Yeah, that is fine. The research output seemed to have gotten captured here. Title, font, description, the links have also gotten captured, which is good. So the structure seems to have been adhered to, but for some reason it has not written it. Probably because this has not worked in some way, shape, or form. I'm not sure why that is. I'm going to have to debug this. So I figured out the actual issue that was happening here. Previously, I was passing in all research output as part of the context, which obviously does not exist in the context. It needs to be passed as a separate argument. So run context just has the dependencies, but everything else needs to go in as a separate argument, which was the issue I was creating last time. So now when I run this, it should work. Let's see what happens. When I run this, it should produce a markdown report for application security news very soon. And you'll see that there may be some minor formatting issues, but by and large, it should be that it works. So it's produced something. Yeah. So you'll see that it has produced each of these things as news. Unfortunately, this is not really news. So we need to fine tune it just a little bit. Fine tune, first of all, the report just a little bit. And then we need to also add a few things. So that's one thing that we need to do. It should be each article must be news and not generic information about applications. So this should help us fine tune the response a little bit. Let's see whether that actually pans out or not. So it should take in all of that, and maybe it does a better job this time around. Let's see whether that goes well. It's running, and hopefully it should produce a markdown report around now. So the idea here is that this is actual news from the looks of it. Yeah, it seems to be pretty legitimate. With the increasing number, experts are clearly identified. So they've identified some news related to Microsoft, related to a Russian hacker group, a recent report. So this is also news. Low-code platform that exposed millions of records. This is also pretty good in terms of the news. Again, this might have identified something else, comprehensive industry. Yeah, so this is not so much news, but nevertheless, by making the prompt a lot better, I'm sure we can do this. So it's really that simple in terms of building out an agent within Pydantic. And the good thing with Pydantic is that it's very low in terms of its overhead in terms of building out an agent. So if you look at other agency frameworks like GrowAI and all that stuff, you need to declare tasks, multiple agents, each agent doing one set of tasks and so on, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel that the granular control that you have over each and every piece of the agent's run is not as good as you would see in something like a Pydantic. Pydantic is a lot more lightweight. I would say it's lightweight because it also allows you to validate the structure of the output and enforce an output structure, which is much more useful for real world agents, right? So it's able to enforce this structure. So everything is based on this structure. You can see that it's very clearly, identified with this structure. And this structure does not change. I've seen that with PydanticAI, it does not change simply because you are declaring it as part of this one structure, and you're focusing that the result, in this case, the research output needs to happen within this structure only and nothing more than this. And it's always going to be delivered at the end. The end result is always going to be in that structure, which is much more reliable, much more predictable. Of course, I'm sure there are things that I can better do with the prompts and so on. But definitely, this is a very interesting use case, which got done very quickly with PydanticAI. So this was how you could build out a very simple agent with Pydantic AI.